I can't wait for the Wallabies to be number one. But let's move into the latest news. And there's not much to talk about today, realistically. But I will bring up I just bring with a buddy, ring with the R rolling. But I will bring up the Argentina coach, Mario Ledesma, who has come out. And it said that he's disrespected by a photo that unfortunately did pop up in regards to the Rugby Championship. Now, if you don't know about this, basically, there was a photo shoot that was, I will read the article from The Guardian in just a few moments, but there was an article, there was a captain's photo shoot in Townsville ahead of the double header between the All Blacks and South Africa and also the Wallabies versus Argentina game. And they really obviously wanted to get this photo shoot out regardless because they needed to get it out prior to the 100th test match between the Springboks and All Blacks. And there was no Argentina there. There was no captain for Argentina. Who's the captain for Argentina again?
William Montoya.
Montoya, thank you very much. Thank you very much, mate. So basically, Argentina coach, I'm going to read from The Guardian now. Argentina coach Mario Ledesma delivered a post-game press conference tirade with a twist, labelling treatment of his team in the lead-up to Saturday's Wallabies clash in Townsville disrespectful. This isn't actually the first time that Argentina have labelled, I guess, other teams, not naming names, but other teams, this time more so kind of the general consensus rather than specific teams, but this isn't the first time they come out with this. Ledesma says a former assistant coach with the Wallabies took aim at decision to press on with a Rugby Championship captain's photo shoot in Townsville on Friday, despite the fact they were not yet in town. Instead, Australian captain Michael Hooper, New Zealand's Adi Sava, and Springboks leader Sia Kolisi were left to the front cameras for the shoot ahead of Townsville's historic double-header. It is understood that previous efforts to stage the shoot while the teams were based in southeast Queensland fell through, and that plans to reschedule on Friday with all four teams were thwarted when Argentina's flight was pushed back from its original time. So basically, they're saying that it shouldn't have gone ahead in general and that there shouldn't have been a photo shoot because if Argentina's not there, that's not all the Rugby Championship teams. And I get it on that regards. I do understand it in regards to maybe you shouldn't have included Michael Hooper is what I would argue here. I think that would kind of put to bed the whole, I guess, common denominator here, which is something that's been around for a few years. And I'll let you speak in a sec, but the common denominator here for Argentina is that, look, financially, they're not the biggest. They're the smallest when it comes to the Rugby Championship. Viewership-wise, the exact same thing. And quality-wise, they are obviously much lower on. We are the top three in the world, right? Australia is third, South Africa is second, New Zealand is first. So the top three teams are their competition, and they're down in number 8, right? So I understand that Argentina will feel disrespected because they feel like all the credit gets given to these teams because they're obviously the quality teams here. And it's not that Argentina's not quality, but they're not as quality, clearly, factually. I'm sorry, but it's factually proven, right? So they feel like they've just gone and done this just to kind of, I guess, I don't even know how to explain this. Like they're just trying. They're basically saying that they're not respected because they're not as good. Is what they're saying. What would you say to all this?
It's like you mentioned, I feel like the better case scenario would have been having it just the two captains for the All Blacks and the Springboks, just to kind of have it as, have that and then have the photo shoot for the four of them this week or something along those lines, just to try and smooth it over. It's very tricky because of the fact that, of course, Argentinians, like they've come a long way to be able to get to the Rugby Championship kind of thing. Like they've travelled from South Africa then to go
they do a lot of travelling
into Australia. And I think that kind of gets kind of slid under the radar a little bit in terms of how willing they are to kind of go anywhere around the world just to continue the rugby kind of going in the kind of world circuit.
Did they play Wales in Wales?
They did indeed. And
so
that was
played
after,
in Wales and then South Africa and then come to Australia.
Yeah, and then that was also after having games in a different country in South America that were planned that then got cancelled due to COVID. So then from there, they flew from there to Wales, and they've just been all over the place at this stage in terms of the location. So I can understand why they'd be a little bit upset in terms of kind of going, well, we've been all around the world here just to kind of been left out as if we're not one of the important teams, because they haven't got a point yet in the Rugby Championship, which I think makes it pretty tough for them in that regard. Because
I think that's another thing that they're frustrated with, because they probably feel like, okay, Rugby Championship's like they're out of it, so it doesn't really matter if they're there.
Yeah. Although they are still, like, they haven't been that competitive this year, but we know that they can be competitive in games? Like they
Oh,
have
no,
their
absolutely.
moments.
I'm not disagreeing with you on that. Oh, no, they're absolutely a competitive team, not this year. But what I'm saying is I feel like Argentina have seen this from the perspective that they don't, Rugby Championship doesn't care about them because obviously they're not in it anymore. And also they don't really bring a great deal of viewership and they don't really bring a great deal of financials and whatnot. So that's what I'm thinking that they're thinking, like it is deliberately disrespectful rather than accidentally disrespectful.
I hope that's not the case though, because I feel like it's not the Rugby Championship without Argentina there. And you wouldn't want to see it kind of go down the same route of Super Rugby in terms of countries like parting ways, because without Argentina internationally playing for the Rugby Championship, and now that they've lost their Super Rugby team as well, it's kind of where do they go? They kind of be a little bit trapped there. But hopefully they will have it all smoothed over by this weekend. You know, everyone will be happy again and we'll be good to go for another round of the Rugby Championship, the final round as well.
Argentina can't really do anything, man. Like, they couldn't do anything because there's no way they'd be able to go into the European Six Nations, especially with it being so difficult for South Africa to get into it. You know, it's also, they're South America, a long way. Like, there's no point. Argentina can't really... They're in a really tough predicament, Argentina. Yeah. They're kind of really the push around boy.
I hope Argentina, they can end up kind of having a smoothed out resolution for this one. Is that the right word? I think it is.
Well, Sansar has come out and apologised. Sansar has come out and said that basically Sansar and Rugby Australia management would like to apologise to Argentina Rugby for the error that led to a photograph being published in the media that misrepresented the Rugby Championship in that it omitted Argentina. A promotional photograph featuring the captains of Argentina, Australia, New Zealand and South Africa had been planned for the tournament once all matches had been rescheduled to be played in Queensland. A photo session was organised for the day before the round 5 matches in Townsville on Friday, 24th September. Unfortunately, a late travel change then meant that Argentina captain could not make it. So, you know, they're just basically saying, like, we can't do anything about it. Sorry. Truly, that's what they're doing. That's what they're doing. What else do you want me to say? We can't do anything about it. We're sorry. No. Like, obviously, wish we could have done something better, but we couldn't. Like, it's an apology, but it's also like, I guess...
Are they going to have one this weekend instead or something, like at some stage during the week?
They surely would. You'd assume as much. To be honest with you. But, look, I think that should do it for this one. Sansar has apologised, and Argentina, we do love you.